محمد
يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله يا رسول الله يا حبيب الله يا نبي الله محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين قيوم السماوات والأرضين إله الأولين والآخرين القائل في كتابه العزيز بديع السماوات والأرض وإذا قضى أمرا فإنما يقول له كن فيكون. وقال تعالى أمرا لرسوله الكريم قل ما كنت بدعا من الرسل وما أدري ما يفعل بي ولا بكم إن أتبع إلا ما يوحى إلي وما أنا إلا نذير مبين. أفضل الصلاة والسلام على رسوله الأعظم سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد بن عبد الله خير ولد عدنان القائل في قوله الشريف من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. وقال أيضا إياكم ومحدثات الأمور فإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وإن كل محدثة بدعة وإن كل بدعة ضلالة. واستطرد قائلا إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله الصالحين وصحابته الصادقين الذين هاجروا معه ونصروه في هجرته فنعم الأنصار ونعم المهاجرون وعلى السالكين منهجه بإحسان إلى آخر الزمان إلى أن يرث الله الأرض ومن عليها وهو خير الوارثين. أما بعد فأرحب بفضيلتكم أجمعين بكل تواضع وغاية احترام بتحية إسلامية قائلا السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. We give thanks to Almighty Allah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon the noblest of the prophets, Muhammad bin Abdullah. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon the household of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon the noble companions and those who follow the path of Muhammad till the hereafter. Amen. Today we want to talk about the concept of innovation in Islam. Al-bid'atu fil Islam. What is innovation? Innovation, as we all know, is a concept that has generated a lot of misconceptions, a lot of arguments among the Muslims. And it is necessary for us to talk about this innovation, to give explanation to the people. Because if we look at it today, innovation has caused factions, misunderstandings among so many people. And we need to look at the view of scholars. It is generally believed that whatever that was not done at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad and whatever the Holy Prophet Muhammad did not instruct is an innovation. So by that, we are not supposed to do any new thing that the Prophet did not order us to do. We are not supposed to do any new thing that was not done at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Whatever that was not done at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, we must not do it. And doing it will lead us to misguidance, and such misguidance will lead us to hellfire. This is the general concept about innovation. We now need to look at it very well. It is said that kullu bid'atin dalala wa kullu dalalatin fin nar. Every innovation is misguidance, and every misguidance leads to hellfire. We need to look at this. Is it all innovation, or is it some part of bid'ah that will lead to misguidance. We need to properly talk about this. We need to discuss it and explain to people, is there any exception to this? That is why today's topic is necessary for us to look at. And by the grace of Allah, we are going to make justice to this topic. This literal meaning of bid'ah has been used in some verses of the Holy Quran. For example, Allah says, "Kul ma kuntu bid'an min ar-rusul, wa ma adri ma yuf'alu bi wala bikum." O Muhammad, say to them, I am not new among the messengers of Allah, and I do not know what will happen to me or what will happen to you. This is mentioned in Surah Al-Ahqaf, verse 9. So bid'ah also means that something is newly invented or newly introduced. If we look at another verse where Allah says, وَرَهَبَانِيَّةً ابْتَدَعُوهَا مَا كَتَبْنَاهَا عَلَيْهِمْ إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ رِضْوَانِ اللَّهِ. Allah says that monasticism is what they invented for themselves. That is, ibtada'uha, they invented it themselves. Not that it was in existence before, not that it was recommended for them by Allah. They invented it themselves. And we did not prescribe it for them. Only that we commanded them to seek Allah's pleasure. So this is Surah Al-Hadid, verse 27. Also from the word bid'ah, which is a verbal noun, we can derive the active participle, and that will be badi'u. So badi'u can be derived from the word bid'ah. It is the active participle, and Allah also uses claiming innovation. Allah claims innovation, origination, the one that brought into existence what was not in existence before. So bid'ah can be attributed to Allah. Where Allah says, Badi'us samawati wal ardi wa iza qada amran fa innama yakulu lahu kun fayakun. Allah is the Badi, is the originator who introduced, who invented the heavens and the earth. And when he decides a matter, it is just for him to say to that, be, and it will be. This is Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 117. So this verse gives us an insight that innovation can be good. Why? Because we cannot attribute something that is bad to Allah. So in this sense, Badi'us samawati wal ard, Allah claims the ownership of bid'ah, and that type of bid'ah is good because it is the originator of the heavens and the earth. So bid'ah in this verse is used in the literal sense and not the contextual or technical meaning of bid'ah. So we are going to look at the contextual definition of bid'ah. Bid'ah contextually is defined as any new thing or any new practice that was not in existence or was not recommended by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. It is any new thing, it is any new practice that was not in existence at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad and was not recommended by the Holy Prophet Muhammad. As regards religious matters, the scholars have defined bid'ah as kullu ma lam yaf'aluhu ar-rasul wa lam ya'mur bihi. Kullu ma lam yaf'aluhu ar-rasul wa lam ya'mur bihi fahuwa bid'ah. Whatever the Holy Prophet Muhammad did not do, and whatever he did not instruct the people to do, is considered as bid'ah. So this is the definition of bid'ah generally according to so many scholars. And the evidence for this is the hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad that says, إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُهْدَسَاتِ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ شَرَّ الْأُمُورِ مُهْدَسَاتُهَا وَإِنَّ كُلَّ مُهْدَسَةٍ بِدْعَةٌ وَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٌ. Where the Prophet said, beware of newly invented matters, and the worst of matters are those that are newly invented. For every newly invented matter, it is an innovation, and every innovation is misguidance. So this hadith is the popular hadith that is being used to address the concept of bid'ah, where the Holy Prophet Muhammad also prohibits any form of bid'ah. There is also another hadith where the Holy Prophet Muhammad says, Man ahadasa fi amrina haza ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun. In another hadith it says, Man ahadasa fi dinina ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddun. Whatever that is introduced, man ahadasa fi amrina haza, whoever introduces any new thing into Islam, ma laysa minhu, that was not previously in Islam before, fahuwa raddun, such thing will be rejected. So this hadith is so important in the definition of bid'ah. Is it every new thing that is introduced into Islam that will be rejected, or any new thing that has no basis in Islam that will be rejected, or any new thing that negates the basis and principles of Islam that will be rejected? So we are going to look at all this shortly. We want to look at the interpretation of the popular hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad that says, Kullu bid'atin dalalatun. So, in the popular narration, the Holy Prophet Muhammad has been said to have stated that Iyyakum wa muhdasatil umur fa inna kulla muhdasatin bid'atun wa kulla bid'atin dalala. Beware of every newly invented matter, as every newly invented matter is an innovation, and every innovation is misguidance. Scholars have explained this hadith in their scholastic way, and it is said that it should not be taken with the literal meaning. We need to consider the contextual, technical meaning of this statement, kullu bid'atin dolala. So it has been described as amun makhsus, a general statement that is specific. So it is general in the sense that kullu bid'atin dolala, that is, in the literal sense, it is a general statement. However, in the technical sense, it is specific. It is specific to every innovation that is bad. It is specific to every innovation that contradicts the tenet of Islam. It is specific to every innovation that contradicts the principles of Sharia. It is specific to every innovation that contradicts or that goes against the Sunnah and the Book of Allah. So every innovation that goes against the Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad is the type of bid'ah that is dalal. So kullu bid'atin dalala applies to every innovation that goes against the Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, that contradicts the Sharia of Islam, that contradicts the tenets of Islam. So such are the forms of bid'ah that can lead to misguidance. However, Any bid'ah or any newly invented matter, any newly introduced matter that does not go against the tenet of Islam, that does not go against the principles of Sharia, that does not contradict the Quran and the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, cannot be said to be misguidance. So we need to look at this very well, as it is said here, and where the Prophet said, "Man ahdasa fi amrina haza ma laysa minhu fahuwa raddu." Whoever introduces any new matter into Islam, it shall be rejected. This is also applicable to any new matter that is introduced into Islam, but it is bad. It contradicts the Sunnah, it contradicts the Quran, it contradicts the Sharia, it contradicts the tenet of Islam. Such innovation will be rejected. If it does not contradict the Sharia, if it does not contradict the Quran, if it does not contradict the Sunnah, if it does not contradict the tenet of Islam, such newly introduced matter cannot be rejected, according to the scholastic interpretation. This explanation has reshaped the definition of bid'ah, which now goes as follows. Al-bid'atu hiya ma uhdisat ala ghairi mithalin sabik aw ma lam yanassu alayhi al-Qur'an wala jaa fi sunnah wa yukhalifu al-Qur'an wa sunnah. So bid'ah, the interpretation or the meaning has been reshaped as follows: any new thing introduced into Islam that has no basis, and the Quran has not given any text to support it, and there is no text to support such acts in the Sunnah, and also it contradicts the Quran and conflicts with the Sunnah, such a practice is an innovation of misguidance. So this is the explanation given by scholars, and by that, the scholars have been able to classify bid'ah into two types. The first one is what is known as good innovation, bid'atun hasana, and the second one is the bad innovation, bid'atun sayyi'ah. So we will look at bid'ah hasana and bid'ah sayyi'ah, and we are also going to consider what the early scholars such as Imam al-Nawawi, al-Imam al-Bayhaqi, and so on, what they have said on this classification of bid'ah into two types. Al-Imam al-Bayhaqi in Manaqib al-Shafi'i mentioned that Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, said innovation is of two types. The first one is anything that is innovated but contradicts the Quran or the Sunnah or the practice of the companions or the consensus of scholars is a type of innovation of misguidance. The second type is anything that is innovated for good but does not contradict the Quran, it does not contradict the Sunnah or the practice of the companions or the consensus of scholars. Such type of innovation is not a blameworthy innovation. It is a good innovation that is permissible. This is written in Manaqib al-Shafi'i, volume 1, page 469. Also, Imam Abu Naim, rahimahullah ta'ala, narrated from Al-Imam Ibrahim al-Junayd that I heard Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, saying, innovation is of two types: praiseworthy innovation, which is permissible, and blameworthy innovation, which is not permissible. And anything that disagrees with the Sunnah is a blameworthy innovation. So this is what Imam al-Bayhaqi and Imam Abu Naim, this is what they both said about the two types of innovation, citing reference from Al-Imam Shafi'i. We are going to consider other scholars also. Al-Imam Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, anything that did not exist during the Prophet's time is called innovation, but some are good while others are bad. So this is also what Al-Imam Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah ta'ala, said. We will now look at the good and the bad innovations now. Innovation, as we said, is classified into good and bad innovations. The basis for this innovation and its classification is from the narration of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he said, "Man sanna sunnatan fil Islam falahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha ba'dahu min ghairi an yankusa min ujurihim shay'un wa man sanna fil Islam sunnatan sayyi'atan kana alayhi wizruha wa wizru man amila biha min ba'dihi min ghairi an yankusa min awzarihim shay'un." The Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man sanna fil Islam sunnatan hasanatan," whoever introduces any new thing, any new practice, any new tradition into Islam, falahu ajruha wa ajru man amila biha, such a person will get the reward, and also the reward of all those that will follow such practice ba'dahu, after him, min ghairi an yankusa min ujurihim shay'un, without a decrease in their reward. Wa man sanna fil Islam sunnatan sayyi'atan kana alayhi wizruha wa wizru man amila biha. Whoever introduces any bad practice, any bad tradition, any bad thing into Islam, kana alayhi wizruha, the sin of such practice is upon that person, wa wizru man amila biha, and the sins of all those who will follow such practice is upon that person who invented or innovated it. Min ghairi an yankusa min awzarihim shay'un, without any decrease in such sins. So this is what the Holy Prophet Muhammad said about introducing a good act, introducing a good practice, introducing a good tradition, and also what is said about anyone who introduces a bad act or a bad tradition. So it will be unjust, at this point, it will be unjust to interpret this hadith as whoever revives a good sunnah, as some people will interpret that it means reviving a good sunnah. So it will be unjust to interpret it as reviving a good sunnah, because you cannot revive a bad sunnah. You cannot revive a bad practice. You cannot revive a bad tradition in Islam. So it is not possible. So for this reason, it will be unjust to interpret this hadith as reviving a good act. So that is not possible. So because Islam has no previous or forgotten bad acts. There is no such existing in Islam. Another reason we should agree to this classification is that the term good bid'ah is attributed to Umar bin al-Khattab, rahimahullahu ta'ala, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when there was a time that this companion, Sayyidina Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when he got to the mosque in Ramadan and he saw people observing Taraweeh prayer individually, not under a single imam, because during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad and Abu Bakr, there was nothing like observing Taraweeh Salat in congregation under one imam. People used to observe individually. So when Umar bin al-Khattab got to the mosque and he saw people observing Taraweeh Salat individually and reciting from various chapters, various verses, he was not comfortable with such practice. He had to order Ubay ibn Ka'b to lead them, and all the people in the mosque intending to observe Taraweeh should observe the Taraweeh prayer behind Ubay ibn Ka'b as their imam, and they obeyed. So since after then, they have been observing Taraweeh behind a single imam as instructed or as introduced by Umar. Another day when Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu ta'ala got to the mosque, he found them observing Taraweeh Salat under a single imam, and he was happy with that. He now said, Hadihi bid'ah, fanimatala bid'atu hazihi. This is indeed a bid'ah, but what a good bid'ah it is. So that statement, what a good bid'ah it is one of the bases where the classification of bid'ah into good bid'ah and bad bid'ah was taken. So this narration is also very important in the classification of bid'ah. Based on these that we just said, Al-Imam Abu Shama Abdurrahman bin Ismail al-Maqdisi, the Sheikh of Imam al-Nawawi, said in Inkarul Bid'ah, he said, new issues are classified into good innovation, that is, bid'ah acts are classified into good innovation, bid'ah mustahsana, and bad innovation, bid'ah mustakbaha. Harmala bin Yahya supported this, and he said, I heard Al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala saying, bid'ah is of two types: the praiseworthy bid'ah, which is good, and the blameworthy bid'ah, which is bad. It is also narrated that Al-Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala said in his book Tahzibul Asma wal Lugat, innovation in religious law is to originate anything which did not exist during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, and it is divided into good and bad. So this is written in Tahzib al-Asma wal Lugat, volume 3, page 22. Al-Imam al-Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala anhu also said, how many of such innovations can we talk about? But they are good, just like the case of establishing Taraweeh Salat in congregation. This is one of the innovations of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and it is a good bid'ah. A bad bid'ah, however, is that which contradicts the sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. According to Al-Imam As-Subuki rahimahullah ta'ala anhu, he said, bid'ah in Sharia implies a newly introduced matter that has no basis, not stated at the beginning in Sharia, but it is conditioned. It is either bid'ah of guidance or bid'ah of misguidance. So this is the view of Al-Imam As-Subuki rahimahullah ta'ala anhu about the classification of bid'ah into two. Bid'ah is also classified into 5 classifications. Generally, we said bid'ah can be classified into 2 types: the good bid'ah and the bad bid'ah. The bid'ah also can also be classified into 5 classifications. So under good bid'ah, we have 4 that are permissible. Under the bad bid'ah, we have 1 that is totally prohibited. So we are going to look at this and the basis for this classification. So the 5 classification of bid'ah is according to the 5 jurisprudential laws. So Al-Imam An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala said, the great Sheikh Abu Muhammad bin Abdul Aziz bin Abdul Salam rahimahullah ta'ala anhu said at the end of his book Al-Qawaid, Bid'ah is divided into obligatory, that is wajib, forbidden, that is muharrama, recommended, manduba, disliked, makruha, permissible, mubaha, and the way to know which is to match it against the principles of Sharia. If it falls within what is compulsory or obligatory, then it is compulsory innovation. If it falls within what is forbidden, then it is forbidden innovation. If it falls within what is recommended, then it is recommended innovation. If it falls within what is disliked, then it is disliked innovation. If it falls within what is permissible, then it is permissible innovation. Also, Ibn Abidin, rahimahullah ta'ala, the popular Hanafi jurist, also said in his book, Raddul Muhtar ala Durril Mukhtar, volume 1, page 376, he said, Bid'ah can be classified into wajib, that is compulsory, like refuting the misguided sect and learning Arabic grammar in order to understand the Quran and the hadith of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Bid'ah is also classified into manduba, that is recommended, like building madrasa and doing any kind of good deed that was not done at the beginning of Islam. Bid'ah is also classified into makruha, that is disliked, such as decorating the mosque. Bid'ah is classified into mubaha, that is permissible, such as any good food, drink, and dressing style. So this is the view of Imam Ibn Abidin, rahimahullah ta'ala anhu. Sheikh al-Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, rahimahullah ta'ala, also said in his book, Fathul Bari, he said, Bid'ah is from whatever that is innovated without precedence in Islam. In Sharia, it is any innovation that contradicts the Sunnah, and this is blameworthy. If it is something good, then it is a good innovation. If it is something bad, then it is a bad innovation. And if not, then it falls under permissibility. However, it can be classified based on the 5 jurisprudential laws, which is wajib, mandub, mubah, makruh, and haram. So these are what some of these early scholars said about the classification of bid'ah into 5 types. We are also going to look at what Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala said. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala anhu said in his book Majmu' al-Fatawa, volume 20, page 163, he said, citing al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, where Imam al-Shafi'i said, Bid'ah is of 2 types, Bid'ah which contradicts the Quran, the Sunnah, the consensus, and the practices of some of the companions of the Messenger of Allah. This type of Bid'ah is an innovation of misguidance. The other bid'ah is that which does not contradict anything in Sharia. This type of bid'ah is a good one due to the saying of Umar, Ni'matil bid'atu hazihi. What a good bid'ah this is. So for these reasons, the scholars have classified, as we said, bid'ah into 5. We have bid'atun wajiba, compulsory bid'ah. We have bid'atun manduba, which is recommended bid'ah or recommended innovation. We have bid'atun mubaha, which is permissible innovation. We have bid'atun makruha, disliked innovation. And we have bid'atun muharrama, forbidden or prohibited innovation. So we are also going to talk more about these 5 types of innovation in order to explain what the scholars of Islam have said about bid'ah. What is bid'atun wajiba, compulsory or obligatory innovation? Bid'atun wajiba is a compulsory innovation that is detrimental if avoided. And examples of such innovation include the compilation of the Holy Quran during the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, as suggested by Umar bin al-Khattab. Another example is introducing Arabic grammar, the science of tafsir and usul al-fiqh in order to understand the Quran and the hadith. During the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, the Quran was not compiled. But in order to preserve the Holy Quran for later generation, it became a necessity for such compilation to take place. So that was why Umar insisted that the Quran must be compiled, even though Abu Bakr saw it as bid'ah. Abu Bakr and some other companions, they called it bid'ah and they were reluctant to do so. But Umar insisted that it is bid'ah, but a good bid'ah. So at the end, it was done. Also, there was nothing like Arabic grammar, science of tafsir or usul al-fiqh during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. It was introduced, or all these were introduced later in order to have good understanding of the Quran, the Hadith, and Islam in general. What is bid'atun manduba? Recommended innovation. So bid'atun manduba is a recommended innovation that is in support of the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Examples include observing Taraweeh in congregation, which was not the practice at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. It was not the practice during the time of Abu Bakr until the time of Umar, when Umar introduced it and he considered it as a good bid'ah when he said, Ni'matil bid'atu hazihi. This is a bid'ah, but a good bid'ah it is. Also, building of schools and hostels to promote Islamic education is considered as bid'ah, but a recommended bid'ah. All this did not exist at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. Building of orphanage homes is bid'ah, but a recommended innovation that we need in Islam. Another type is celebrating the coming to life of the best of mankind, Muhammad Rasulullah. So it is also a bid'ah, but a recommended bid'ah. So all these are bid'ah that are permissible, including reciting awrad, reciting azkar, that was not done at the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. They are considered recommended bid'ah that are permissible. The third category we want to look at is bid'atun mubaha, permissible bid'ah. So many examples fall under this category of bid'ah. Bid'ah mubaha, as the name implies, permissible innovation. It is a type of innovation that has no reward. No specific reward, no special reward is attached to it, but it is permissible. Examples include putting on socks or putting on gloves by women or men. As we see today, we have women that put on socks, we have women that put on hand gloves. All these did not exist during the time of the Holy Prophet Muhammad. So it is considered by scholars as bid'ah that is permissible. If you like, you do it. If you like, you don't do it. So eating and drinking any good food that you're not part of what the Prophet ate or drank is also considered as permissible bid'ah. The same thing applies to dressing. We can dress in any good way that the Holy Prophet Muhammad did not even dress in such a way. It is permissible. Eating with spoons is bid'ah because the Prophet did not eat with spoon, so it is permissible. Eating with fork, eating with knives, all these are permissible, even though the Holy Prophet Muhammad did not do them. Also included here is birthday celebration. Birthday celebration, Mother's Day celebration, Father's Day celebration. All these are bid'ah acts, but they are permissible. except if they conflict or contradict the Quran, or if they contradict anything in the Sunnah of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, or if anything unlawful is introduced into them. So they become forbidden. But mere celebration, it is permissible. It is a bid'ah, but a permissible bid'ah in Islam, according to explanations of scholars. So this can be found in the book Bain Sa'il wal Faqih by Sheikh al-Mufti al-Dr. Muhammad Bakri Ismail, the author of Al-Fiqh al-Wadi. So we will find these explanations in that book. The fourth one we want to look at is Bid'ah Makruha. What is Bid'atun Makruha? Bid'ah Makruha refers to a disliked new practice that was frowned at the beginning of Islam. It refers to a disliked new practice that was frowned at the beginning of Islam. And examples of these include decorating masajid with ornaments, beautifying the structure and architecture of the mosque, building of minarets or dome on the mosque, use of tiles in the mosque, use of rugs in the mosque, use of carpet in the mosque, painting the mosque, and use of light bulbs in the mosque. All these, they fall under disliked bid'ah, but they are permissible. Because at the beginning of Islam, all these did not exist. It is even said that you must not place any form of ornament inside the mosque. So the mosque was not decorated at the beginning of Islam. So the scholars, they said all these practices we find today, they fall under disliked bid'ah, but they are all permissible. Other examples include decorating the Quran and translating the Quran into other languages, because there is no perfect translation. There is no way you translate the Quran that you will convey the full meaning, the perfect meaning of the Quran. So at the beginning of Islam, the Quran was not translated into any other language, and subsequently it was not allowed to be done. But today we have translated the Quran into so many languages that we have in the world today. So it is a disliked innovation, but however, it is permissible to do, and there is no sin in doing that. The last one we want to look at is bid'atun muharrama, forbidden or prohibited bid'ah. This type of bid'ah is so important in Islam because it is prohibited. It is a type of bid'ah that leads to misguidance. No scholar, no sheikh, no alim, nobody in Islam should permit this type of bid'ah. It is unanimously agreed upon as haram, as forbidden. So there is no justification for introducing such acts in Islam. Whoever that practices this type of action, such a person is on the path of misguidance, and it is not encouraged in any way, in any form. Examples include funeral party that we see today. It is prohibited. It is a prohibited innovation. It wasn't in existence at the beginning of Islam. There is no verse of the Quran supporting it. There is no justification for it in the Sunnah. In fact, it contradicts the tenet of Islam. It contradicts the principles of Sharia. So there is no justification for such act. Another example is burning the body of a deceased Muslim. This is totally against the tenet of Islam. It is totally against the Sharia of Islam. Organizing special prayer and tahajjud to celebrate the festivals of non-Muslims is also a prohibited bid'ah. It is a forbidden innovation. Another example is performing Hajj in any other place, either Baghdad or anywhere aside from the Holy Kaaba. So if you perform Hajj in any other place, it is a prohibited innovation. It is a forbidden innovation in Islam, and there is no justification for that. Another example is organizing candlelight procession for a deceased Muslim. This is practice of non-Muslims, so it is against the principles of Sharia and should not be encouraged in any form. Also, adding to the number of units in any of the obligatory prayer or decreasing the number of units in any of the obligatory prayers, such as Subuhi, you cannot increase the number of units from 2 to 4. Same for Zuhr, you can't increase the number from 4 to 6 or 8, and you can't decrease. Can't do so for Asri. The same for Maghrib. Maghrib contains 3 units. You can't increase it to 4 or more, and you cannot decrease it from 3 to 2. The same applies to Salatul Isha. You can't increase it from 4 to 6 or 8, and you can't decrease. So doing that will be a form of forbidding bid'ah that should not be encouraged in any way. Another example is fixing another time for any of the obligatory prayer. The times for the obligatory prayers, they are already fixed, mentioned in the Sharia. So you cannot change the time of those prayers. So they are fixed already. So changing the times of those prayers, then it is considered as forbidding innovation that should not be encouraged, that should not be allowed by anybody. Same thing applies to praying, observing salats, and facing any other direction aside the Qibla. So you cannot change the Qibla of the Muslims. No justification for doing that. Doing that is forbidding bid'ah that should not be encouraged by anybody. Other examples including introducing non-Islamic belief into Islam, such as Trinity, or belief in any other person as a prophet of Allah aside those mentioned in Islam. So you cannot consider any other person as a prophet of Allah that has not been mentioned in the Quran, or there is no justification in the Hadith. So even if the person is a revered scholar, so you can't consider such a person as a prophet. Doing that is an act of misguidance that should not be encouraged in any other form. It is also not allowed. It is considered as bid'ah muharrama, forbidden bid'ah, to equate any scholar or any sheikh to the status of any prophet of Allah. Doing that is an act of misguidance that has been prohibited. Similarly, changing the stipulated nisab for zakat is an act of bid'ah, of misguidance. Making zakat a monthly payment is against the Sharia of Islam. So zakat is an annual payment. So now making it a monthly payment is bid'ah of misguidance that should not be encouraged by any scholar. Also included here is to observe or to make any other fast compulsory aside the fast of Ramadan and those that are stipulated in Sharia. So to make any other form of fast compulsory aside those that are stipulated in Sharia falls under bid'ah of misguidance. So it is prohibited and it should not be allowed or tolerated by any scholar in Islam.
يا حبيب الله يا نبي الله محمد